I've already switched over to full alien.
All right, let's do this. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 5 Idiots Talking Toys. I'm Shane, and it's Sunday night, so that means it's time for another episode of our Collectors Podcast. Tonight, we are going to talk about a pretty general topic. It's a topic that we would all be interested in. Everybody who watches our channel definitely will be. I want to remind you that you can now support us on Patreon. If you enjoy the show, please head on to patreon.com/5 Idiots Talking Toys. We have exclusive content there. We have a new show, new episodes, show, theme, whatever you want to call it. It is 5 Idiots After Dark. So if you want some adult-only content, not meant for the kids, and also only for our patrons, you can head over there and support the show and get that extra content. We're also going to have early access to these episodes as well as wins and whiffs. And we're also going to have previews for collections that are going to go for sale on Rogue 5 Toys. Okay, enough. Let's bring in, I don't know, who always says they're last? I think Charles is always last. Charles, welcome to the show.
Hey, Shane. I'm just zooming my face in like you are.
Is that so that you have some light on your face finally?
No, this is actually what you look like.
Was I leaning in too much?
You're super zoomed in like this.
All right, fair enough. All right, we're going to bring in your brother.
Oh,
we caught him mid-dessert, I think. Christopher is here. Oh, he's got
loves planters, loves them.
Yeah. Brandon is here.
Oh. Didn't know you guys were here. Sorry.
And John is here. Everybody's here tonight, and we are ready to talk about Star Wars. How long is Star Wars going to last?
I will rush the episode. It's going to last a long time. All right, that's it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
Thanks for joining us.
Done. Bye.
Bye-bye. It's done. So you could take this question and go in a lot of different directions, guys. Who wants to start us off? Let's jump right in. Let's dive in, as Chris likes to do. And there he goes. He just dove in. And you know what? I kind of want to just share one thing before we go into the episode.
Ball pocket.
5 Idiots After Dark. All right. So this is our Patreon. We now have a little mini channel inside of our Patreon, and you can get episodes of 5 Idiots After Dark. So no holds bar with the language for adults, stuff that we don't put on YouTube, stuff that we're making not to put on YouTube. And nudity. Then, of course, just for our Patreons.
There's nudity. There will be nudity.
My dad watches this, so I can't let him know that I've been naked.
There won't be nudity. There is no nudity.
Wait, hold on. Is your dad a Patreon member? He pays?
No, he's not a Patreon.
Well, then kick him off.
We're back to there's nudity.
I'm picturing Charles is naked. He's wearing a robe. He's driving down the highway in a white pickup
by
truck.
A fireplace.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
He's smoking a pipe.
Right. All right. So I'm going to give a little preview here. This is our homepage. This is our Patreon. And you can see all the videos and collections and stuff like that we put up. And now we're going to take that down and jump into the episode. If I could only find my mouse. There we go. Guys, let's jump into this. Who wants to kick us off with their thoughts on how long that Star Wars is going to last? And in what regard?
Well, I was going to start off saying this is usually always a topic that people always talk about pretty much every year. People are talking about it like more because since COVID is now over, they've seen the prices, drop down back to earth, not really realizing that most of the prices went up 50% and sometimes more in some cases. So now that they're seeing stuff drop, they're thinking, oh my God, is Star Wars dead? Is it going to be dead forever? Is it dying? They're also not, really thinking about how it's summertime. And as we know on the page, it's always slow on summertime. Like that's how it's always been. People go on vacations.
Correct.
People go on vacations.
They're
People
naked.
are spending money elsewhere.
Sorry.
They're usually naked in the pool. They're not on their phones as much. So I guarantee you, once fall time and winter time comes, I think it's going to pick back up again.
So I'll be on the other side, and I'll just say, what happens this fall or winter if it doesn't pick up?
Will it pick up in the spring? Will it pick up next summer?
False.
Well, now you guys are talking about you're pretty
Toys
much talking
only.
about vintage Star Wars toys right now when
Yeah.
you say that, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, that's what we focus on a lot. I think this question is open to more than that. But from my point of view, this might open your eyes a little bit to my perspective. Even though I had basically done kind of a better than beater loose run, and not even with accessories and stuff, just to get some of the figures, get the figures that I had as a kid. I had been collecting modern for several years before that. But when I turned my attention back to vintage and really got into the community, as opposed to a few years earlier, just using the groups to purchase from and do a little bit of research, he's pumping it up again. I don't know what he's doing.
Pumping.
He's in his Reebok pump.
What was that thing that he had? The sneakers that nobody's ever heard of?
Catapults.
He's got
Wait, is this
catapults.
never heard of it in my
is this the Patreon version of the video? Or
No.
Okay.
Yeah, save your thought, whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, so I turned my attention back to the groups, and I'll call it, became more of a member of the community. I had just used the groups to shop and learn and watch, post and learn what to do in terms of buying the figures originally, and then went away for like 2 years, back to the modern groups. And so when I turned my attention, it was like 4 or 5 months before COVID. It was like winter time, just like beginning 2020. So my perspective is totally skewed with the vintage market because the prices were already going up then, or were already at a certain level. Then they went up a lot during COVID. But when they're dropping down now, this is the first drop I've seen, really. Like, it's only been an increase as long as I've been in the vintage community and been like an active participant on a regular basis. So this is kind of shocking for me, and I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this as well.
It ebbs and flows. I mean, the same thing with the card and the comic book market. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s when I was collecting those were pretty steady and doing really well. Then late 90s, early 2000s, the comic book market pretty much took a giant dump along with the cards. And now, the resurgence, the COVID brought back those collectors as well and all that. So it just ebbs and flows like everything else, I think you'll see more new collectors now starting to buy some of the vintage stuff because they can maybe afford it now. As
it's a good point.
The teenagers are now turning in their 20s and they have a job and they can maybe, buy a couple things here and there for their collection that they saw growing up or
More affordable.
whatever. But the majority of people now, I mean, they're modern collectors and and Disney and Star Wars are trying to turn, they're trying to turn to a new group of people with Star Wars now, and they're not really, appeasing the OG trilogy guys. As you can see it by their theme parks and their characters that they're releasing in these shows now. I mean, you can see just going to some of these cons, the amount of people that are waiting in line to see Ewan McGregor vice Ian McDermott.
Yeah.
And Ian McDermott, they're like, meh. But Ewan McGregor, he's got a line out the door, because he's the modern Star Wars, and people love him, and all these new characters, and people love all those new characters. And then the autograph lines are ridiculous for these people. And some of the OG characters are, it's just a thing of the past. And unfortunately, that's where it's going to go. And, the only thing that's going to keep these vintage toys going are the new collectors that hopefully end up liking vintage stuff. But
the people that are buying and collecting right now, they're not used to seeing prices go up and then go down and then stay still. Like, and if you're in the comic book market and then any card market, you're used to seeing like a stock market. One day it's $10, the next day it's $100. The comic book market and cards have always gone up and down, but so drastically that it's just like ridiculous. Star Wars never really did that. It's kind of always just steadily inclined, steadily. This is the first time it's really ever done that. So that's why people are just extra panicking right now. I think eventually it's just gonna, settle out somewhere, find its ground, and then it'll still be fine, because all the harder to find stuff, all the rare, that stuff, it still sells. Thank you, Ian McDermott.
Oh, all right.
Do it.
It still sells,
all right.
and it still sells for the exact same price. Like, it hasn't gone down actually at all on some of those items. So,
and it's not across the board. Like, there's some like figures that cost, the figures that cost a bit more, they've gone down a bit, but the more common figures have, dropped in half. Because they're so easy to find.
Correct.
Do you
It's
think
also social media? That's a big thing. Back in the 90s, there was no social media, so some of this stuff wasn't really well known. Like a Vinyl Cape Jawa, how much was that back in the 90s?
$12,
$150, $200?
Yeah, I bet.
In my old checklist, my old price, it says it went for $300 loose, and then carded it was like $1,200 for a carded one.
Yeah, and now social media blew that up. If you didn't have social media, nobody would know it was a thing. Nobody would care.
I mean, at no point should a weekway figure, right? A regular weekway figure, he should never cost $20. Because if his staff is like $5 or $6, which is what it goes for, and then the figure itself, like depending on condition, is $4 to $6, how do people always got 20? So I think
here's the truth. You guys are being like way too nice. You're looking outside the box. You got to go inside the box. You got to open the door.
Everyone's always wrong, and here's Charles being
Look
right.
inside.
Cut a hole in the step one. Cut a hole in the box.
You gotta open a door. You have to look inside. What's the third one, Charles?
Most of these people were just living their lives. COVID knocked them sideways. They were sitting at home, 50 years old, wearing robes, drinking Coors Light, sitting in front of fireplaces, obviously nude. They had nothing to do. They were getting free money from the government. All politics aside, most of us had more money right during that, that like time period with COVID. We were getting free money. Everyone was spending money. Star Wars was booming. Weekways were going left and right. Everyone was buying Yoda cane. Yoda canes were like marijuana on the side of the road. If you had a Yoda cane, everyone was buying it. It was like Yoda canes everywhere. Sniffing Yoda cane. I saw him eating a Yoda cane. It got so crazy.
I heard that people were logging on to 4chan and the dark web and getting Yoda canes shipped to them from anonymous people. Yeah.
Brandon was smoking Yoda canes.
Mm-hmm.
It was ridiculous.
He used to have a lot of Yoda canes, not anymore.
I made a log cabin out of Yoda canes.
Now, most of these people, they're not getting free money anymore. They have the whole Star Wars collection. They don't really care anymore. So a lot of the collectors left, sold their collections, or they are not getting free money anymore, so they're not buying it anymore. So most of the people who are buying now are the real Star Wars collectors.
Yeah.
All the people you see now who are still buying and stuff like that, they're the real Star Wars collectors.
To an extent, you are correct. But the 2 years before COVID, Star Wars was still really hot and the stuff would sell really fast, because once Force Awakens came out and those new movies, it's that helped pump it up also, because I was still selling on the pages even before COVID, and stuff would just sell really fast. Always.
Oh, I'm sure. But all of that free money, like they were sending me thousands of dollars. Like,
oh, I know.
It's like qualified for it. They just sent me thousands of dollars. I'm like, all right, I'll buy a couple week ways. I'll buy some Yoda canes. I'll
So
buy some Yoda canes for Brandon.
All right, this is the part of the show where everyone, including me, gets muted and John gets.
I think Charles was still in the middle of what he had to say.
John, I think you can talk now.
No, I'll jump in.
I was being serious. John's been waiting
Please.
to say something, so I was
Please.
trying to. All right, we're all back. Go ahead, John. Though.
I was just going to say, what do you think? What was I going to say? I don't even remember what I was going to say now. But it had something to do with like the vintage market. Do you think that the vintage market is going to be like squelched out by all of these modern collectors eventually? I mean, because we're kind of the last generation that really cares about the vintage toys, aren't we?
I don't know. Well, let me ask you this: what percentage of vintage collectors do you think are, say, in their 30s right now? Like a fair amount, but more in their 40s and 50s, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Because we saw the movies in the theaters, at least one of them, right?
Yeah,
And I
everybody
asked
who's
that-
50 has only 10 years left, so they're going to be getting rid of those collections.
I asked that because anybody that's in their 30s is the same type of collector as anybody who's in their teens or 20s right now. They were not alive during the original trilogy where these vintage figures are from. So they obviously had some interest in going back and collecting toys that they didn't have a personal attachment to because of their love of Star Wars. So that still is a possibility. I just don't know what percentage of the collectors is that age.
The rehash of the movies every so often from 77 to 83, then 1995 to 97, then early 2000s I think they came out with some other edition, and then 2015 they came out with The Force Awakens. So now it seems to be picking up because they keep releasing these movies and building upon them, and now Disney has all these things. So
when the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi came out this year, I didn't even know it was in theaters.
John, we had a whole episode on the
I know we did.
poster and all.
We did have a whole episode on it, but there was like no fanfare for it.
Not a lot of advertisement.
It came
No,
out
it was
for like 2 weeks.
not even. I think it was like 10 days or less.
Yeah.
Like,
I was
like
pissed off
over
'cause I
2
wanted to see it
weekends. That
more.
was it.
So do we need another pandemic to actually hit for prices to go back up, or do we need part 10 to finally come out? And
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I need another pandemic.
Yeah, I know, right? I need a break. But I'm not really looking about the prices. I'm just talking about the interest in vintage toys.
Yeah.
Period.
here's another perspective.
Does that die with us when we die?
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Because G.I. Joe and Transformers right now, for whatever reason, are hot. Transformers came out with a new movie, but yet what are they buying? They're all buying vintage Transformers.
Like
Those are
Transformers,
late 80s, late 80s,
not-
early 90s, though.
It's not older. Yeah, who cares? It's still vintage, though, in that perspective.
They have new movies coming out, and they're actually halfway decent, though.
We're not
That's the
talking about what's good and what's bad. We're just talking about what will keep them interested. So if a Transformers movie comes out and it's good, the people that are collecting, they're buying the vintage ones. They're not buying the new garbage.
But
Yeah, but where's the good Star Wars movies that are coming out?
well, wait. So
We
the
need
new movies.
We
Was
need
Optimus
someone to
Prime
make
in the new movie.
I don't watch Transformers, Brandon. I have no idea.
I think it's the same characters over and over and over again on these Transformers movies, right?
I don't think that. I don't
You
think
don't
No,
see
because
Darth
there was
Vader in
one
the new
recently
movies?
that had the Dinobots in it, or at least one. or
Yeah,
two
it's
of them.
all Optimus Prime and Bumblebee and the other fucking guy with that flies around and whatever, like
Megatron,
Starscream.
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 Brandon, why don't you grab a Yoda cane, roll it up in a little doobie, and go smoke it?
and watch Transformers.
Well, I'm just saying,
You need
I'm
to
saying
relax.
it's the same characters over and over again. So if Star Wars released something with Darth Vader in it over and over and over again, obviously Darth Vader would keep selling.
Brandon,
Right?
they can't even
Well, they are,
release a
though.
freaking Boba Fett series How about the Ahsoka series?
Yeah, those suck.
They're not
Yeah, but
exactly that's the problem.
well, listen, they put Darth Vader in Rogue One, and everybody went nuts because that became everybody's favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
They put Darth Vader in Obi-Wan, and the scene where he battles Obi-Wan is awesome. I'm not saying everybody loved the show, but they are bringing him back, and he looks cool when they fought in
with the
fire. They were on the face of the moon.
That was
not the fire. The not when he ran away. The actual fight when they had the duel.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I don't know if they're going to bring any flashbacks to Darth Vader and Ahsoka, but they could always do stuff like that because now you got Anakin, in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're in a hole with vintage collectors. Like they need to. Yank us back in because
I know
they're losing a lot of people.
I think the four of us here do not collect modern Star Wars toys, and I know that a lot of our viewers and other collectors do collect the modern lines as well.
Yeah.
So
there's 5 of us here.
What?
There's 5 of us.
Yeah, I know. What did I say? 4?
You said the other 4.
4.
You said the other 4.
He was leaving Chris out because he doesn't collect anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying now I don't even remember what I was going to say. Oh, the modern thing. Like I know a bunch of people that collect modern stuff as well, so they're kind of
a lot of people
keeping up with the modern stuff. I have a few of the vintage collection figures loose ones that I picked up that are, I mean, they're awesome figures. They've done a really good job with the articulation and all that. So I mean,
Brandon is totally right. I guarantee you guys, and maybe you just don't recognize it. We are in the minority. Out of all the people we know that collect vintage, a lot of them collect at least some modern. I mean, I have some modern.
I mean, I would say that me collecting Lego is modern.
Yeah, well,
we're like 3 3/4 inch line
though. They're Lego.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. It's a figure.
We mean the 3 3/4 inch line or something equivalent to that.
I only collect 6 inches and above.
Let me tell you what. A lot of people are switching focus. There are a lot, some people are just getting out of the Star Wars game altogether, and they had the figures, they had the play sets, and they're like, time to sell it and move on and go do something else. I know a lot of people are getting into G.I. Joe and
G.I. Joe is hot.
Evil Knievel.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, come on. There ain't. You haven't met a guy that has sold his Star Wars collection and said, you know what? I'm moving into Evil Knievel. Is there someone?
I'm selling mine and I'm moving into Alien. I'm moving into Super 7.
Is there someone out there who's collecting Evil Knievel? Yes. There's also guys out there who pick their nose and they eat their snot. So there's a guy out there for everything.
Guys, you have to listen to Charles. He's an investment wizard. If you follow the money, Charles will bring you home.
And John must eat his boogers and lick his snot, apparently. So,
well, the dynamic of this 5 has also changed over the 2 years. Chris has, become a full-time seller during that period, and John has opened a variety and a toy shop. So, that there's a different perspective
Brandon.
now between the two of you guys.
I've branched into other toy lines.
Shane and Brandon have stayed pretty much straight, like maybe up and down a little bit, but you guys are the same. Like you two.
Well, no. Shane collects Boosh staplers. I collect alien figures. I collect alien figures that are worth $5.
I got a new paper clipping today.
Brandon collects alien garbage. But I'm saying though, the perspective of you guys, you're earning part of your living or your full living, whatever, from selling as opposed to just being a common collector only. So you're seeing both sides of it now, as we you didn't always.
I wish this was worth more than $5, but it's not.
Dallas.
That will probably never be worth more than $5.
Well, I guarantee you there's more.
So cool, though.
It is cool.
I guarantee you there's more Star Wars collectors who do collect vintage to some degree that also collect modern than there are just focused on vintage. There are. I mean, there's so much that's been out. Now, there's also 3 whole different realms of Star Wars toy collecting. You know, the vintage collectors refuse to allow the 90s toys be called vintage. That sounds ridiculous to me, but they are now to the point where they're 25, 30 years old. Anybody collecting modern, we say modern, we're really talking about the last 5 years, right? Modern meaning it's out right now.
Anything
90s.
with a Hasbro, anything with a Hasbro label on it, to me is considered modern.
Yes,
But
I
you
agree,
know-
and I think
But you know, like Shane's talking about the Power of the Force figures that came out in 95, right?
hmm
That's almost 30 years ago. 25
Yeah.
years is vintage.
Crazy.
And
People
there
aren't-
was nothing.
Well, the people who are going to Big Bad Toy Store or Entertainment Earth and pre-ordering figures and pre-ordering waves
Like
And-
Andor.
and going to Hasbro HasLab and slapping down 500 for the Ghost. I mean, those are modern collectors. Like they're collecting new stuff right now. That's kind of what I think we're talking about when we say there's some vintage collectors who collect modern. They're buying new toys right now, new collectibles. There's a lot of those people. Like that's way hotter than collecting 40-year-old toys.
I was doing that. John Rula sent me a dark red Yoda cane, and I smoked it, and I bought a whole bunch of modern. I was buying comic books, I was buying everything. I woke up, I'm like, this is absolute trash.
Trash.
Oh, wait, I said
Absolute
Christopher.
Why didn't you sell it when the market was hot?
There it
and
is.
Those comics were worth
Brandon,
something.
everything John Rula told me to buy, I bought it. It dumped. Like the second I got it into my hand, it was worth less than what I paid.
That's the problem, is that it was hot when you told you to order it, and then by the time you finally got it in, it was worth nothing.
So hot. He probably spent so much money on all those comic books. They're worth nothing. No one wants them. Comic books are absolute
So
trash, garbage.
the only comic books that are worth money and that I see that should like people should buy
Old
like,
ones.
are the older ones.
Yeah.
I think anything that's newer, when I see the price like a price fluctuate on a comic book that's like 5 years old, when it goes from $20 to $1,000 down to $600, down up to $900, down to $200, that just has like it has writing all over the wall that you need to stay away from that crap. And I jumped in. John Rula didn't save me, and I drowned. That's what happened.
Right. Well,
I'm
when
using-
he
I'm
told
using
you
those
about
comics
it,
as a coaster right now.
when he told you about it, it was really hot, right?
Yes.
So hot. So hot.
But I didn't realize that that's how the comic book market and the card market was or is. That's how it's always been. It will be down in the dumps where it just drops completely, where no one wants it. And then the next year it goes up and it's so hot. It like quadruples in price. It's
so
weird.
hot.
I just want to tell you when I see if I come across like by accident, you know, a video or a TikTok or something like a reel or something of kids who are like in grade school or middle school and they're so excited in sports cards again now. I know it's been years. This is not a new thing, but I'm just saying I remember collecting them in like the early 90s as a kid, and it was a big deal to go to sports card shows and stuff. And it was so dead for so many years. When I see kids talking about pulls and ripping packs and breaking open boxes, I'm just floored. I can't,
Or ship it.
Panini.
I can't believe it came back, let alone it came back as crazy.
I
big
heard of
as it did.
Panini, and I was like, the sandwich?
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's the cards. I'm like, you mean like Fleer, Upper Deck, Don Russ, Tops? No, Panini.
Yeah. Now
I
you
think
get
we-
a case and you open it up and there's like one card in an acrylic inside of foam in a case.
Yeah, it's just one. Yeah.
It's crazy.
We
Rip
should
it
go
or ship
back.
it.
What?
Which rip it or ship it on
On whatnot?
whatnot. So like you
Yeah.
buy a pack of cards and you either have them rip it open or ship it. I don't get it. They rip it open. There's no good cards in it. and then they keep it. Like, why
I
wouldn't
don't
you just
get it either. It's almost
don't
like
understand.
a form of gambling, and you want to like
You lose
show
everything
it
then.
off in front of whoever's watching.
It makes no sense.
It's
I don't
almost
get it.
like ship it to me because I just want to buy it. That's one thing, and then the other thing is tear it open and let everybody see what I just got. And then if it's garbage, like don't even pay for shipping or whatever. And if it's
That's what they
amazing,
do.
then everybody can freak out.
Mhm.
That's what they do. But whoever's ripping it has, I'm sure the cards are worth something. I mean,
I don't know.
all the
I'm not in that
common ones
world.
are worth something.
Yeah.
I don't get
I'm just shocked. I'm shocked that there's, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds out there that are, more into it than we were as kids. It's crazy.
I think Brandon said something earlier that we should have touched on more, and he said that the prices are dropping, so that means that more collectors now will start jumping in now that the price has gone down, and that is so 100% true, because even when the prices were hot in the streets, and you couldn't find a Lobot anywhere, that a lot of people were like,
that's not gonna get crazy.
Lobot was so hot you could not find them anywhere, Charles.
Charles was throwing them in his driveway. He was throwing mocks down the street.
There were a lot of people that said, like, I'm not buying right now. I'm not collecting because prices are just too high. So people have been just sitting around waiting for prices to drop. So once the prices drop, if they do drop more, there's just going to be more collectors anyway.
Yeah, I did catch Brandon saying that, and I had a thought as well that when I was talking about 30-year-olds that are in the vintage groups, there might be people that didn't have the funds to go be buying all of the harder to get, more expensive figures, and they were going slow and enjoying themselves, and now they might be able to get some figures they couldn't afford before, or they held off on, and it's working in their favor. So good for them. I mean, it's great to have people still be interested. So
I mean, now they go on hunts and they buy a collection. Now their hands are shaking.
Hands are shaking. They're still shaking.
Still shaking.
So let me ask you this: we've talked about the toys a bunch. We're focused on the toys on this show. There's a lot of modern stuff that is still coming out. If you are keeping up with some of these lines, I don't know how you're doing it. I had to tap out at one point because they were releasing so many figures, too much, too fast, so many waves. Trying to find them in the stores, exclusives was crazy. So talk about Star Wars, the other areas of Star Wars. We just had, a few years ago, the latest trilogy, the final trilogy ended. There's rumors that they're starting a new trilogy. There's rumors that there's a couple other movies in the works. And in the meantime, we've had series. So we've talked about those a lot here on this show. Mandalorian, 3 seasons, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, Andor all had single seasons, and now we're about halfway through Ahsoka. What do you guys think about Star Wars? Take, big picture. What do you think about how long Star Wars is going to be around? What do you see in the near future? I think it took a little bit of a pause here, if you guys agree with that, the last couple of years where they stopped making movies, turned Obi from a movie into a show. And all of a sudden now I think they're starting to realize how important those big movies are in the box office.
Well, they said something, I think I saw the other day, that episode 5 of Ahsoka was going to be released in theaters as well.
Is it really?
I thought I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that.
God.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't read the article because I don't care about it.
Really?
But
You're being serious?
yeah, that I
Wow.
don't care about it. Absolutely.
He's definitely serious.
Why would the episode
They're
only that
releasing
one
episode
episode?
5 and trying to generate some interest in it, I guess, because it's a
Make
piece
any
of
sense.
garbage.
Well, how
But,
much do you pay to see like a 40-minute something in a movie theater?
Go on like a $5 Tuesday.
Yeah, right.
exactly. Maybe they meant the first 5 episodes will be in the movie theater.
Episode 5.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I don't know.
Nothing
But-
Disney does makes sense.
But I don't think what's crazy is like, they're
I'm gonna
showing
fact check you right now while you're talking.
Okay. Because I don't know. I mean, I read something about it, so I don't know if it's accurate or not. But anyway, so like with these series that are coming out, a lot of them, like the Andor series, is adult oriented. right? The Obi-Wan series, it was more adult oriented because it was a story about Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Ahsoka is supposed to be children oriented, but because the Rebels cartoon, but it's really adult oriented. But they're isolating the adults by having these childish stories that don't make any sense.
Well,
So-
I'll disagree. I don't know what my answer would be on Rebels. I gotta believe it's children focused because it's a cartoon and they're Ezra was pretty young when the show started. But the one that I'll disagree with you on is Obi-Wan, because they had a 10-year-old Princess Leia in there with her own little droid that fits in her pocket. I thought
Obi-Wan was for children too. I don't think it was for adults.
I think it was definitely a family show. I mean, I think you could make that argument that it was for both, but
I'd say more family than children for sure. But
So I fact checked John.
yes,
I have the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Would you share it with us?
I will. John is 100%, without a doubt, right.
Correct.
On September 12th, Tuesday, they are airing Ahsoka Episode 5 in theaters at the same time it's released on Disney+.
Boy, I would love to see those box office numbers.
That is so dumb.
All right, so
they're doing that. People are pissed that they didn't get tickets for it.
Why?
Meaning it's sold out already?
Yeah, they're only offering it like in certain theaters, and people had to like log in early to get the tickets, and now there's people on wait lists.
Who's waiting?
Why?
Who is waiting? Is it 50-year-old men with beards
people are
drinking Coors Light,
nerds.
not getting laid?
People are nerds. They want to go see it.
I want to know
this
who.
new stuff.
You know why?
Who cares?
It said
we're in the minority.
It said the last Star Wars movie was out 4 years ago in theaters. So it's been 4 years. All these people hopped up on Yoda canes, ready to watch a movie, and they've been waiting 4 years. They are smoking tons of Yoda canes on Tuesday.
I've accepted this, and it was probably once Boba came out, I accepted the fact that all this new Star Wars crap that comes out, it's for children. It's for kids. It's not meant for us adults. Whether they intend to make it for us or not, the way it displays, it's for kids. And I'm cool with that. That's why I don't watch it at all. I just hate when people get mad at me if I don't like something or if I say something's dumb.
Yes.
Because they're like, but you're a Star Wars fan. So just because you're a Star Wars fan, it doesn't mean I need to like an imaginary character that came out 40 years after Star Wars, like made up out of thin air. It's for kids. It's just kids.
All this was very different with all the other shows. If you don't like Ahsoka, you're gonna get shanked. Walking down the street.
People message me and they're like, I can't believe you're not watching Ahsoka. It's amazing. And I'm just like, I have no interest. I realize it's a kid show. I don't want to watch a kid show.
We have a close, friend. We're not going to name his name. He will strangle you in your sleep if you say anything bad about the show. Well, he is hopped up on Ahsoka sabers. He's smoking Ahsoka sabers everywhere.
Do you know when you're like a little boy and you were growing up and you had like Pamela Anderson posters on your wall, or you had Jenny McCarthy, Carmen Electra? He has had Ahsoka. He has had Ahsoka on his wall. Yeah, Farrah Fawcett for John. This guy has had Ahsoka on his wall for the last 30 years, and she's only been around for 10 of them. But he still had her on the wall. He's just in love with Ahsoka.
John had a poster of Grace Kelly on his bedroom wall.
I don't even know who that is.
Remember the Christmas vacation where the grandfather, he's like laying in the bunk bed, like all the way on top, staring at the girl. Yeah.
The guest model.
Yeah. He's on the bunk bed. He's on the top bunk, and he's just staring at a poster of Ahsoka. Same thing.
Yeah. It's like 2 feet from his head, something like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Who was in the poster? Wasn't it Cindy Crawford or was it Elle McPherson?
It wasn't. I'm a huge nut with that movie. I'm a huge fan of that movie. And I tried to figure it out. It was a guest model. It was like not there was a famous one that like she was only known for guests. It wasn't even her. It was just another guest model.
The one who oh gosh, what is her name? The blonde
Claudia Schiffer.
No, not Claudia.
Did you say
well,
that?
it may have been Claudia Schiffer, but I was thinking of the one who.
That's a great trivia question, though.
Judge Judy?
I cannot remember her name.
Judge
the one
Judy?
that like went crazy and married like this 85-year-old guy.
Oh, Anna Nicole Smith.
Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah, it's not
Is that
her. It's not her. No.
Okay. Anyway.
All right.
We went off on a rabbit trail. All right.
All right. So it says her name. Oh, let me say.
Brent's so mad. He needs the Yoda cane right now. He is pissed.
You're never gonna believe this. It's a guest model. It's a model in a Guess Jeans poster from 1988, and the model's name is Carrie Otis.
No idea.
It's not somebody any of us know, but yeah.
So you're on a bunk bed. You're staring at Carrie Otis.
Carrie Otis.
He's naked, and he's thinking of Ahsoka. Done.
Carrie Otis. She's hot in the streets right now.
So
she's probably 80 years old now.
What if she's still alive? Yes. What is the final verdict then? Is Star Wars vintage Star Wars, vintage toys in general? Is it gonna die, or is it living forever?
See, okay.
Star Wars, vintage Star Wars, vintage Star Wars, Star Wars. Vintage.
My opinion is that a lot of the kids nowadays don't play with a lot of toys, so when they get our age, they're not going to care if they have vintage toys. You know what I mean? Either they're not going to care, or they're going to want. I mean, it sounds like a 50-50.
No, you're not. You're not completely talking out of your butt because my son plays with toys. I know Charles' son plays with toys, but I know a lot of other kids or nieces and nephews that I have. They don't even know what an action figure is. They've never seen it before.
Yeah,
they do not play with action figures or toys. It's all about iPads and video games. So,
well, I'll add on top of that. I go to pick up my kids from school, and I see their friends, and they recognize me, and they're like telling me something. You know how kids just run up to you and say some random thing from the day. So I turn to them, or I'll have a Star Wars shirt on, and they'll say something, and I'll go, "Oh yeah, who's your favorite Star Wars character?" Some of them have no idea what I'm even talking about.
Yeah.
Like these are 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and when I say the word Star Wars, they look at me like I'm a mental patient. Mm-hmm. So I'm shocked. I mean, because there's cartoons, there's movies that just were out recently and are now on Disney Plus, which you kind of assume most kids have seen Disney Plus. There's shows on right now that they can watch. So I'm shocked that there's kids that don't even know what it is, but that's factual. So that's
Disney's
one thing.
fault.
I mean,
they failed to hook the kids.
Maybe Star Wars will become like comics and baseball cards, where it goes really high and it just goes really low. Because baseball cards, or just let's just say card collecting in general, I know a lot of people that are like our age or even younger that collect cards, but they're collecting cards from guys that played in the 50s or 60s. They've never seen them play. They never had anything to do with them. But they're still collecting their card. So I think maybe later on in life, Star Wars might become more like up and down and more like, fluctuated, but I think it's always going to be around and always be collected.
I think you could go at this from two different angles. You could go and say, hey, how much longer are people going to be interested in 40-year-old toys? Because think about it right now. I don't know, pick out some toys that are 60 years old, right? Like, from the 50s, from the late 50s, around 1960. Who do you know is collecting any of that right now? Very, very small market of old guys.
Megas. What are those? Megos? Migos.
But even
those are late
even
60s,
older
early
than
70s, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you go to toy shows, you do see some of that really, really old stuff where you don't even know what it is. The audience for that is minute at this point. So you could make the argument that in another 10 years, and these are 50 years old, it's like, who's going to be collecting them? But you've got a brand, and you've got a franchise that is carrying on with new content. You've got the biggest company in the world owns it and is going to keep making money off of it and pushing it. So therefore, it's not the typical toy line. If you pick out another toy line that is from the same time frame, Dukes of Hazzard. I mean, what's the audience for that? There is an audience, but it's going to wane.
You have to realize that Star Wars started this whole trend with collecting. There wasn't a toy that came out correlated with the movie as each one went on. Nothing ever got this popular until Star Wars came out. It kind of changed. It kind of made its own mold, which is why I still think it will always be good down the line, because it creates its own future.
As long as it keeps going, because when it first came out in '83, Return of the Jedi, the toy line died, and so did the movies.
Are you eating a Yoda can right now?
It didn't. First of all, Brandon, it didn't die. It just got slow because they already bought all those same toys already.
No, it died. Remember, they stopped making them and they moved on to something else. And then in the '90s, it brought everything back.
But how many times can you buy a new packaged Lando and give it to your 8-year-old son to open? You're going to buy one. You don't need to go back to buy more. There was no new movies or content to keep it going. So that's why.
We've seen this with toy lines over and over again. And if you watch the Netflix series, the Toys That Made Us, each episode of that show is a different toy line, and they talk about it, from the perspective of that, content, that series, that cartoon, what movies there were, and how it related to the comic books and the toy lines. And they all died at some point for a number of different reasons, but mostly because the interest in the content waned and or they stopped making the content. Once they stopped making those shows, the interest dies for the toy line. So I don't see that happening with Star Wars, because they're going to, they paid how much money for Star Wars? They're going to keep milking it and making new characters and making new shows and making new movies. I think they were really dumb for stopping to make movies the last 4 years.
I think so too.
I think they realize that because they're putting these shows out on Disney Plus and they're not making any money off of them. Hello, surprise. They put out Ahsoka. They're not making any money off of it. The people that are watching it were already subscribed. They're barely getting any new subscribers. The stock is going down. And instead of putting a movie in the movie theater and making $1.3 billion on it, they're putting it on Disney Plus and making peanuts on it.
Yeah. They lost a ton of subscribers the last 2 quarters. So if they're not adding anybody with all these new shows coming on, like Shane said, they're not making any money. All they're doing is maybe just keeping guys like me or John who have kind of had enough with the subscription, where I still pay for it, but I'm not even watching the dumb show anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think they're going to turn their attention, and they already have, but they're secretive about it. But they're going to make a new trilogy. There's already rumors that Rey is going to be in it, probably as like a secondary character, to connect the storyline for any of the fans, the newer fans, younger fans.
Yeah, but if they do one with her, it ain't gonna be good.
I don't think she's going to be the star of it, but I think they're going to, carry that character over.
Even the modern fans don't like her.
Ian McDermott is going to be in there too. Well,
he's in every show.
Yeah. Anthony Daniels will somehow be C-3PO, and the Emperor will be there.
Yeah.
Of course, we have to have R2.
Of course.
Yeah. So I think Star Wars is going to live for a long time. The interest in different areas of Star Wars collecting will come and go a bit. But I'm glad that there's collectors out there who maybe can start to expand their collections where they couldn't have afforded to do it, 2 years ago at the height of the market. Prices were nuts.
Yes.
All right. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for our rant, our thoughts, our conversation on how long is Star Wars going to live. I think it's going to live for a long time, but of course, there's a lot of areas of Star Wars. There's different areas of collecting. There's series. Some people are interested in the series, some in the movies, some not in any of it. So, wherever your interest lies with Star Wars, I think your interest will always be piqued when you hear there's some new content. You'll want to check out the trailers and see what's going on. So we'll have to see over the next few years. But I think
we'll check back with you.
We'll check back with you. Check back in episode 376 when we circle back on Star Wars.
And
all right. Yeah.
Hold on, if I can just put my investment hat on too, since before you said that Chris was an investment wizard.
Yeah, you are.
Let me put my hat on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hold on a second.
Investment wizard tip number 1. Do not pay money to see Ahsoka episode 5. Save your money. It's garbage. Done. Save
Oh my God, I gotta go see it. Ah!
Well, we just
FOMO.
we're in the middle of this past week at this time of recording was episode 4 of Ahsoka, and everybody who's still watching the show was going nuts after that stinker that episode 3 was. So
yeah,
everybody was liking episode 4. Chris, you loved it, you said.
It was hot. It was so hot.
All right, folks, that's going to do it. Please go on over to 5idiotstalkingtoys.com. You'll find all the links for our socials, our collector page, Rogue 5 Toys, and you can also support the show on Patreon. The address is below. We thank you for checking that out. There's exclusive content there. There's other benefits. We will see you next time on 5 Idiots Talking Toys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi.